What's going on, folks? Welcome to Stu's Garage, and as of right now the motor swap is happening. I didn't show you guys a lot of the preliminary stuff because it's boring, it's simple, but there's a few things I want to point out to you guys, so I'll show you what you got to do to get to this point. So first up, most everything you have to disconnect takes regular tools, except for these things right here. This is your fuel line disconnect. So if you're ever going to be changing your fuel pump or disconnecting your fuel lines from the motor, get yourself one of these, and this will allow you to disconnect your fuel lines, and you don't have to jerry rig it with a pin like I did last time. And the pin mod only works on the smaller lines anyway. So besides that, of course, you're going to disconnect the wiring harness. Those are the fuel lines like I was saying before. You're going to disconnect your power steering, which is down there, your speedometer, transmission cables, throttle body cables. Basically, all this stuff is disconnected. And we've shimmied the motor back and forth a little bit. Oh yeah, of course, you're definitely going to have to take out your radiator. I've drained all the fluids just to keep things from being messy. So there's the fan, there's the radiator. Also, any of you Ford guys, if you know what this fan is from, definitely let me know. It's not from a Ford Taurus. It's bigger than a Taurus fan. So if anybody happens to know what this is from, definitely let me know. But anyways, yep, the motor's getting ready to come out of here. Alright, so it's the next day after pulling the motor out, and I've gone ahead and removed a lot of the wires from the engine bay. Some of this stuff is going to stay because we're rewiring everything. And I started painting the engine bay olive drab green, you know, because for motivation. But anyways, that's how it's going to look. And yeah, I know I didn't show you guys a whole lot in this video. You know, it's not really too much more to it. So anyways, thanks for checking out the build, folks, and we'll catch you next time. What's going on, folks, and welcome to Stu's Garage. The last video you guys watched, if you're following along, you saw us pull the motor out of here. We spray painted the engine bay green just to go along with the military theme. And today we're going to be snatching the K-member out of the car. But before we do that, like I said, if you follow along with the build, there's a couple of updates I want to give you, and there's a few people that I need to thank. So first of all, I just got back from Haggard Fabrication up in New Jersey this morning, and I picked up this custom exhaust. It's used, but this is actually a custom exhaust that came off of an LS swapped Mustang. It's a beautiful exhaust. The X-pipe and the MagnaFlow style mufflers, V-band clamps. This thing is going to sound completely awesome. It's already got O2 bungs in it. I think I have plugs because I only run one O2. And also the Hedman swap headers. They're already powder, or not powder coated, they're already ceramic coated gold, so it goes with the theme, so it's definitely a match made in heaven. These Hedman swap headers are the ones that everybody recommends for this swap. Some people left some bad reviews on them, but they didn't say why, so I'm pretty optimistic that these are going to be good for the swap. So that's pretty much the last piece. Literally the last thing that I need is I need a custom pilot bearing because I'm using a Ford style transmission, which is over there in the corner, and it's all obviously going into the LS. So the input shaft into the transmission is going to be a different size than what the makers of these pilot bearings are expecting. So that's literally the last piece that I'm going to have to buy. Which brings us to this awesome clutch setup. I think this setup is good for like 700 or 800 horsepower. I don't remember, but this is a spec stage 3. I want to give a shout out to my friends Ivan Kemp and Chris Kaysen. Ivan Kemp gave me some awesome pointers because he beat me to the punch with installing this M3 style dash. He also hooked me up with PCP parts. Chris Kaysen, also known as Mustang Parts Fast, and they saved me several long nights worth of research trying to piece this stuff together, because like I said, with the Ford style transmission that I'm running, between the bell housing, the clutch kit, and some other stuff, it's not a typical swap. There's really no such thing as a routine LS swap. So you know, he did the research for me. He let me know exactly what I needed. He gave me the information on this setup, and basically he helped me pick the best setup for what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going with the aggressive 6-puck. If you've never driven a 6-puck car, it's definitely funny to see somebody that's never done it before, but I have, so I'm not really worried about it. So that's pretty much it for the updates. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into today's task. All right, so right now we're inside the fender well of the Mustang, and you can see there's a bolt here right above where your shocks would normally be. There's a bolt there right above. Sorry for the darkness, but literally all of my lights are broken. So I have to do this in the dark, and you guys have to see it in the dark. And also inside the bay, if you can see that bolt right there, and there's another one on the other side right there. So 6 bolts, and this K-member is actually going to drop out of the car. But before we do that, we're going to disconnect the spindles and the brakes from the front suspension, just so that it's not holding on to anything, and we're going to let everything come straight down. I've already disconnected the power steering line, which is hanging around somewhere over there. So that's all going to come down with the rack. Oh, also we're going to have to disconnect the steering shaft. So what I've actually been doing to prepare for this is, for the past 48 hours, I've been spraying PB Blaster on all of those bolts, along with a special mix that I've concocted here. I came up with this based on some videos that I watched. I'll post that video below, but basically this is the best type of penetrating oil that you can get. It's a mixture of automatic transmission fluid and acetone. Basically, when you're working on old rust buckets like these, you got to learn some tricks, because the stuff you see on the LMR videos is just not real life. No offense to those guys, because they make some really awesome videos, but nothing really comes apart that easily. So like I said, I've been soaking these things with penetrating oil to try and loosen it up so I don't have any issues when I go to break these nuts loose. And just crossing my fingers right now, just hoping for the best. So like I said, we're going to start disassembling, and we're going to start with the front suspension here. Alright, so now we've got everything disconnected. We've got our knuckle disconnected from the strut. What else? Of course, we've got the brake caliper hanging there, and all the brake stuff is down there. I'm leaving the steering stuff attached because that's all going to come down as one unit. The lower control arm is still on. We've also disconnected the sway bar link here, so all this stuff is ready to drop down. It's disconnected on both sides. So, you know, like I said, I just didn't show you guys that just because the lack of lighting today. We're gonna have that fixed real soon. So next up, we're going to actually start pulling the bolts that you see down in the corner there. That one's still in. I did not pull that one out. So we're gonna go ahead and unbolt the bolts that you see there and there. Okay, so I know you can't see it from the top, but there's actually 4 bolts, and that's what the unit looks like when it comes out. The other bolts on the actually are still on the impact. So down in these corners, you've got 4 bolts. You can see one from the top, and the other one you can see it from the bottom. They both come out from the bottom, and they are a size 15. And like I said, I've been soaking these things for over 48 hours. They slid right out without a hitch. All right, so now that we got those out, we've only got 4 bolts left holding the K-member in, which is right up on top of there, and I'm not gonna be able to fit my tool in there, so I'm gonna have to use my breaker bar, my handy breaker bar, which is right here. All right, folks, progress update. As you can tell from my face, things have not been easy. So I've been fighting with these bolts for probably about an hour now, and geez, you totally can't see them now. Really sorry about the light. Hold on, let me see. All right, got some light for you guys, but I've been fighting with these bolts for like an hour now. So there's one out. There's number 2 with some major rust damage that I'm gonna have to repair, and that one's gonna have to be cut out. But luckily, on this side, after a lot of fighting, I have the nut out on this side, and I also have the nut out on this side, and that bolt is ready to just drop down. So I've also got the K-member supported here by a jack. So what I'm gonna do is let the K-member come down just a little bit. I'm gonna bust out the trusty grinder, I'm gonna cut the other bolt loose, and the whole K-member should come right down. Alright, so I've got the last bolt almost out, and that was actually holding things up. So with the K-member supported in the front there, this thing is going to topple backwards. So I need to put something underneath here. I'm going to slide this bolt out that you see sticking down, and then I'm going to go over to the other side and bust out the trusty grinder. Alright, so I'm inside the engine bay now and getting ready to do some cutting on this piece here, but before I do, I kind of want to show you some of the rust and crud that came out. So right here, that's just a little bit. You'll see more once this thing is actually out of here, but there's actually a pretty good pile of old rust that came out with it. So the other thing I wanted to show you was I forgot to disconnect my steering shaft. It's not coming loose from down here because I have the modified one, and rusted everything has got it stuck together. I tried, so what I ended up doing is just taking it loose from up here. Even though it's not fully out, it'll slide right out, and all I gotta do is just slide that back in. So time to go ahead and take the grinder to that right there and get this K-member dropped out. Alright folks, that cutting part just took like a half hour to get that screw loose. I finally got everything disconnected. The K-member is literally just hanging underneath the car right now, and I'm getting ready to pull it out. So pretty much my lesson learned from this one is never tell somebody that's going to be real quick. I told somebody, yeah, I'm just going to pull the K-member real quick. No, it doesn't work like that. So, you know, if you're new at working on cars, if you're old at working on cars, you know, never write checks that you don't know if you can cash, because it'll jinx you every time. So we're gonna go ahead and get this K-member ripped out of here, and yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Alright folks, that's about it for tonight. We're gonna go ahead and call it a night. Definitely check out the next video, because we're gonna take this piece of scrap metal and we're gonna compare it to the new K-member. There's a lot of debate out there as to whether or not a aftermarket K-member can actually save you weight. So some people say that an aftermarket K-member can save you like 150 pounds. Some people say that it can save you like 30 pounds because you know, it's overhyped. So next video, we're actually going to take these two K-members, we're going to put them head to head, and we're going to actually see what kind of weight savings you get with a K-member. And we're also going to talk about some of the differences between the aftermarket K-member and the original one. So thanks for watching folks, catch you next time, see you later.